I don't blame President Trump for wanting to sit down with Vladimir Putin and get a sense of where he is, but he pretty much already knows. They've had 5 calls so far, and the administration has put out a few proposals. But let's take a look at what, Putin's wish list is, and he's already made it quite clear. So he wants de facto recognition of all of the territorial gains. He wants a declaration that Ukraine can't join NATO. He wants caps on Ukraine's military capacity and the weapons that are getting to. He's also talking about calling for elections in Ukraine. Basically, he wants Ukraine to just admit that they lost and, move on with, less territory and possibly even elections. So he wants basically Trump to declare him the winner. And so I think, if President Trump wants to sit down one last time and make sure that that's still where Putin is, okay. But I hope that the cynicism that we've seen from President Trump over the last, call it, month or so, will he still have that when President Putin is sitting across from him? Putin could, make some more noises about being willing to do things. But ultimately, we know that President Putin is not interested in a ceasefire. He thinks he's winning the war, and he has no reason to capitulate.
You've seen no evidence that Putin has changed his position on this, that no. Trump may somehow feel that Putin is no longer stringing him along. So I wonder, are we going to see further sanctions on Russia, specifically on its trading partners?
I think if President Trump comes to the realization that Putin is continuing to play him, and he goes back and forth, right? Depending on the day, depending on what he sees on the ground in Ukraine. I think if he comes to that realization, I'm not getting anything out of this guy, then yes, remember, President Trump did walk away from, his lover boy, Kim Jong-un, all those years ago. So if he's willing to say, I'm done here, then maybe he'll launch those sanctions, and then that could move Putin a little bit. But right now, even though Putin, he has 20% of the country, he doesn't have 80%. So to give him what he has and maybe even more what they're talking about, I just think President Trump doesn't really need to do that. And President Zelensky doesn't think he can do that without going to the Ukrainian people. So that's why there has to be a meeting between Trump and Zelensky, because President Trump can't say, oh, here's a piece of Ukraine, have at it. President Zelensky has a vote here, and President Putin doesn't want to meet with him.